The sky above the earth was a vast canvas of cobalt blue, brushed with the soft strokes of white clouds drifting lazily across the horizon. A golden sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm, honeyed light that bathed the rolling hills and verdant forests below. The air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers and freshly turned soil, a fragrance that mingled with the distant hum of life moving through the world. For Alara, Xena, and Mira, it was as if they had stepped into a living dream, a place so different from their own sterile and orderly world of Dorara. The three women stood at the edge of a sprawling meadow, their feet sinking into the lush, emerald grass. They were taller than most human women, their bodies slender and willowy, with an ethereal grace that seemed almost unnatural. Their skin shimmered faintly, a delicate blend of iridescent hues that shifted with the light, and their eyes were large and luminous, filled with a deep, unearthly intelligence. Each of them wore a simple garment of silken material that clung to their forms, its color shifting in harmony with the surroundings. Alara was the first to speak, her voice soft and melodic, carrying the weight of curiosity and wonder. "This place. It is so alive," she murmured, her gaze sweeping across the landscape. "The colors, the sounds. Everything here is vibrant, teeming with energy." Xena nodded, her expression contemplative. She was the most analytical of the three, always seeking to understand the underlying mechanics of the world around her. "The energy here is chaotic," she observed, her voice more measured. "It pulses and flows without the structured rhythm we are accustomed to. There is a rawness to it, a primal force that seems to drive all living things." Mira, the youngest and most empathetic of the trio, closed her eyes and inhaled deeply, allowing the scents and sounds to wash over her. "It's beautiful," she whispered, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "So different from Dorara, where everything is controlled and ordered. Here, there is a sense of freedom, of possibility." Their arrival had not gone unnoticed. Harold, their human guide and liaison, had been watching them from a distance, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and trepidation. He had been briefed on their mission, had been told that they were here to study Earth and its inhabitants, to learn about the complexities of human life. But seeing them in person, these alien women with their otherworldly beauty and presence, was something altogether different. He approached them cautiously, his movements slow and deliberate, as if he feared startling them. "Welcome to Earth," he said, his voice steady, despite the rapid beating of his heart. "I am Harold, and I have been assigned to assist you during your stay here." The women turned to face him, their gazes intense and searching. There was a brief moment of silence, during which Harold felt as though they were looking through him, into the very depths of his being. Then Alara stepped forward, her expression softening into one of gentle warmth. "Thank you, Harold," she said, her voice carrying a soothing resonance that seemed to ease the tension in the air. "We are grateful for your guidance. This world is overwhelming in its own way, but we are eager to learn." Harold nodded, swallowing the lump that had formed in his throat. "Of course, I will do my best to help you understand our world." He hesitated for a moment, then added, "Is there anything specific you wish to learn about first?" The three women exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. It was Xena who finally spoke, her voice tinged with the clinical detachment of a scientist. "We have been tasked with understanding the most fundamental aspects of human life. We are particularly interested in the process of reproduction." Harold blinked, caught off guard by the directness of her statement. "Reproduction," he repeated, a hint of surprise in his voice. "That's a rather complex subject. But yes, I can certainly help you with that." Mira tilted her head, her eyes narrowing slightly as she studied Harold's reaction. "It seems to make you uncomfortable," she observed, her tone curious rather than accusatory. "Why is that?" Harold chuckled awkwardly, scratching the back of his neck. "It's not that it makes me uncomfortable, exactly," he explained. "It's just that reproduction is a very personal and intimate subject for humans. It's tied to a lot of emotions, cultural norms, and moral beliefs. It's not something we usually discuss with strangers." Alara stepped closer, her gaze softening as she reached out to touch Harold's arm. Her fingers were cool against his skin, and he felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. "We do not wish to cause you distress," she said gently. "But on Dorara, reproduction is a matter of public knowledge, a ritualized process that is carefully controlled and monitored. There is little room for emotion or intimacy in it. We find your approach intriguing." Harold nodded slowly, understanding beginning to dawn on him. "I see. Well, here on Earth it's quite different. Reproduction is often linked to love, to deep connections between individuals. It's a natural process, but it's also one that carries a lot of significance for us. Xena's eyes gleamed with interest. Love, she repeated, as if testing the word on her tongue. This is a concept we have heard of, but it is not something that exists on Durara in the same way. It is said to be a powerful force, one that can drive both creation and destruction. Harold nodded again, his mind racing as he considered how best to explain such a complex and multifaceted concept. Yes, love can be very powerful. It's something that can inspire great joy and deep sorrow, something that can bring people together or tear them apart. It's difficult to define because it means different things to different people. Mira's eyes sparkled with excitement, her youthful enthusiasm evident. This sounds fascinating, she exclaimed. We must learn more about it. If love is so closely tied to reproduction, then understanding it will be crucial to our mission. Alara smiled, her gaze flickering between her companions and Harold. Then let us begin, she said, her voice filled with quiet determination. Harold, please show us the way. Harold took a deep breath, steeling himself for the task ahead. He had been briefed on the nature of the alien women's mission, had been told that they were here to learn, to observe, and to understand. But as he looked into their eyes, he realized that this would not be a simple exchange of information. This would be a journey, one that would challenge his own understanding of the world and of himself. All right, he said, his voice steadying as he met their gazes. Let's start with the basics. I'll do my best to explain everything as we go along. And so, under the warm glow of the setting sun, Harold led the three alien women across the meadow, towards a small cottage nestled in the distance. It would be their home for the duration of their stay, a place where they could learn about Earth and its inhabitants in relative peace and privacy. As they walked, the women continued to marvel at the world around them, their senses alive with the sights, sounds, and smells of this strange and beautiful planet. But beneath their outward fascination, there was a deeper undercurrent of curiosity, a desire to understand the mysteries of human life in all its complexity. And as they approached the cottage, they knew that this was only the beginning of their journey, a journey that would take them into the heart of what it meant to be human. The first night on Earth was filled with new experiences. The women marveled at the sensation of cool, soft sheets against their skin, the gentle rustling of leaves outside the windows, and the distant call of nocturnal creatures. Everything was so different, so alive, and as they lay in their beds, they found themselves wondering what secrets this world held and how it would change them. For Harold, the night was filled with a different kind of contemplation. He had been entrusted with a great responsibility, one that weighed heavily on his shoulders. These women were here to learn about humanity, to understand the intricacies of life on Earth. And as he drifted off to sleep, he couldn't help but wonder what they would discover, and how it would affect their perception of his world and perhaps even their own. Outside, the moon rose high into the sky, casting a silvery light over the landscape. The earth breathed softly, its heart beating in time with the rhythms of life that pulsed through every living thing. And in the quiet darkness, three alien women dreamed of love, of life, and of the mysteries that awaited them on this strange, beautiful planet called Earth. The morning sun filtered through the curtains of the small cottage, casting a warm, golden glow over the wooden floors and softly illuminating the faces of Alara, Xena, and Mira as they gathered around the kitchen table. Harold, their human guide, was already up, preparing a simple breakfast of bread, fruit, and tea. The aroma of freshly brewed tea filled the air, mingling with the scent of ripe berries and warm bread. It was a tranquil moment, a peaceful beginning to what would soon become a day filled with deep exploration and unexpected revelations. Alara, the leader of the group, sat at the head of the table, her gaze focused on Harold as he moved about the kitchen. Her mind was still reeling from the conversation they had had the night before, when Harold had begun to explain the complexities of human reproduction. On Durara, reproduction was a process devoid of the emotional and personal nuances that seemed to define it on Earth. It was a ritualized event, governed by cosmic cycles and overseen by the elders, who determined the optimal time and pairings for the continuation of their species. But here on Earth, reproduction was intertwined with something far more intimate and elusive: love. The concept fascinated Alara, and she found herself eager to learn more about how humans navigated the delicate balance between personal desire and societal expectation. Harold, Alara began, her voice soft yet commanding. You mentioned last night that reproduction on Earth is often a natural extension of love. Can you elaborate on that? How does love influence the decision to create new life? Harold paused, considering her question as he poured tea into delicate porcelain cups. He had anticipated that their discussions would delve into complex and personal territory, but he hadn't expected such direct inquiries so soon. Nevertheless, he was committed to helping them understand, no matter how challenging the subject might be. Love is. It's a difficult thing to define, Alara Harold said, choosing his words carefully as he set a cup of tea in front of her. It's an emotion, yes, but it's also an experience, a connection that forms between people. Love can inspire us to do great things, to sacrifice for others, and to build a life together. When two people fall in love, they often feel a deep desire to share their lives in every possible way, including through the creation of new life. Alara nodded thoughtfully, her fingers tracing the rim of the cup as she processed his words. So reproduction is not merely a biological function on Earth. It is an expression of something deeper, something that transcends mere physical necessity. Exactly, Harold replied, taking a seat across from her. For many people, having children is a way of sharing their love, of creating a bond that ties them together in a profound and lasting way. But it's not always about reproduction. Sometimes love is about companionship, about finding someone who understands you, who supports you, and who shares your life without the expectation of creating new life. The choice to have children is just one of the many ways that love can manifest. Zena, who had been listening intently, leaned forward, her interest piqued. And what about those who choose not to have children? Is their love considered less significant? Harold shook his head, a smile playing at the corners of his lips. Not at all. Love is not defined by whether or not it results in children. Many people form deep, meaningful relationships without ever having children. They might focus on other shared goals like building a life together, pursuing careers, or contributing to their communities. The strength of a relationship isn't measured by reproduction, but by the connection and commitment between the individuals involved. Zena's brow furrowed as she considered this. On Darara, the formation of families was inextricably linked to reproduction, as it was the means by which their society perpetuated itself. Families were created for the purpose of raising the next generation, and the emotional aspects of these bonds were secondary to their societal function. The idea that human bonds could be strong and meaningful without the imperative to reproduce was both foreign and intriguing to her. So in human culture, Zena continued, her analytical mind working through the implications, the decision to reproduce is not driven by societal obligation, but by personal choice and emotional connection. Harold nodded. That's right. Of course, there are societal and cultural factors that influence these decisions, but ultimately, it's a personal choice. Some people feel a strong desire to have children, to pass on their genes and their values to the next generation. Others may not feel that same drive. And that's perfectly acceptable too. Love, companionship, and shared experiences are just as important as reproduction in human relationships. Alara exchanged a glance with Zena, a silent communication passing between them. Both women were beginning to understand that the human approach to reproduction was far more complex and nuanced than they had imagined. It wasn't simply a matter of biology or duty, it was a deeply personal decision, shaped by love, desire, and the intricate web of relationships that humans form throughout their lives. Mira, who had been quietly observing the conversation, finally spoke up, her voice tinged with curiosity. Harold, you mentioned that love can also lead to great joy and deep sorrow. How does this affect the decision to reproduce? If love is such a powerful and unpredictable force, doesn't that make reproduction a risky endeavor? Harold smiled gently, appreciating the insight behind her question. Yes, love can be both joyful and painful. It can bring immense happiness, but it can also lead to heartache and loss. That's part of what makes it so powerful. When people choose to have children, they're accepting that risk. They're choosing to bring new life into the world, knowing that it will be filled with both joy and challenges. But for many, the potential for love and connection is worth the risk. Alara leaned back in her chair, her mind racing with the implications of what Harold had said. On Darara, the decision to reproduce was made with cold calculation, with the intent of maintaining the stability and continuity of their society. Emotions were considered irrelevant, even dangerous, in the context of reproduction. But here on Earth, emotions were at the very heart of the decision, guiding and shaping the process in ways that Alara found both bewildering and fascinating. I find it remarkable, Alara said, her voice soft and reflective, that humans place such trust in something as unpredictable as love. On Durara, we value control and certainty above all else. We trust in the rituals and the cosmic cycles to guide us, to ensure that our society remains balanced and harmonious. But here, you seem to embrace the uncertainty, to find strength in the very things that we would consider weaknesses. Harold nodded, understanding the depth of her observation. It's true. Humans are often driven by emotions, by the desire for connection and meaning. It can lead to mistakes, to heartbreak, but it can also lead to incredible beauty and fulfillment. Love is one of the most powerful forces in our world. And it's something that can't be controlled or predicted. But that's also what makes it so precious. Zena's analytical mind was already working through the implications of this revelation. If love is such a central force in human reproduction, then it must also play a significant role in the formation of families. How do these bonds, formed through love, shape the way humans raise their children? Harold smiled, appreciating the depth of her inquiry. You're absolutely right. Love is the foundation of most families, and it shapes everything from the way children are raised to the values that are passed down from one generation to the next. In many cultures, parents strive to provide their children with love, support, and guidance, helping them to grow into independent and caring individuals. The family unit is often seen as the cornerstone of society, a place where love and connection are nurtured and where children learn the values that will guide them throughout their lives. Alara's curiosity deepened, her mind racing with questions about the implications of such a system. But what happens when love falters? When relationships break down, how does that affect the children and the family as a whole? Harold's expression grew somber, his eyes reflecting the weight of the question. When love falters, it can be very difficult, especially for the children. Families can be torn apart by conflict, by misunderstandings, or by the simple fact that love changes over time. But even in those situations, many parents try to do what's best for their children, and to provide them with stability and support, even when the relationship between the parents is strained. It's not always easy, and it can be painful, but love for the children often remains a strong motivator, even when the love between the parents fades. Zena considered this carefully, her mind turning over the complexities of human relationships. On Durara, the concept of a family was strictly functional, designed for the purpose of reproduction and the raising of the next generation. The emotional bonds that humans seem to place so much importance on were secondary, if they existed at all. The idea that a family could be sustained by love, even in the face of conflict and change, was both foreign and intriguing to her. As the conversation continued, the sun rose higher in the sky, bathing the room in warm, golden light. The three women from Durara found themselves drawn deeper into the complexities of human culture, their curiosity only growing as they learned more about the intricate web of emotions, relationships, and choices that shaped life on Earth. By the time the breakfast dishes were cleared away and the morning had given way to the early afternoon, Alara, Zena, and Mira had come to a new understanding of what it meant to be human. They had learned that reproduction on Earth was not merely a biological function, but a deeply personal and emotional decision shaped by love, connection, and the desire to share one's life with another. They had begun to see that the bonds humans formed were as much a part of their identity as their physical forms, and that these bonds could be both a source of great strength and a cause of profound vulnerability. For Alara, the realization that reproduction could be an expression of love rather than a mere obligation was a revelation that would stay with her, shaping her understanding of humanity in ways she had never anticipated. For Zena, the idea that families could be built on the foundation of love, rather than necessity, opened up new avenues of thought and exploration, challenging the very core of her understanding of societal structure. And as they continued their journey of discovery, guided by Harold's patient explanations and insights, the women from Durara began to see that the Earth was not just a world of physical beauty and sensory experiences, but a place where the deepest and most complex aspects of existence were played out in the hearts and minds of its inhabitants. It was a world where love, in all its forms, could create life, forge bonds, and shape the destiny of individuals and societies alike. And for Alara, Zena, and Mira, it was a world that held the promise of understanding, not just of the humans they had come to study, but of themselves as well. The days in the small cottage nestled in the heart of the countryside passed with a quiet, almost dreamlike quality. The natural beauty of Earth, with its changing skies, whispering winds, and the endless variety of life, continued to captivate Alara, Zena, and Mira. They spent their days exploring the surrounding landscapes, immersing themselves in the rich tapestry of sensory experiences that the planet offered. The nights were spent in deep conversation with Harold, unraveling the mysteries of human existence, guided by his patience and willingness to share the intricacies of his world. Of the three, Mira had taken a particular interest in the biological and environmental aspects of human life. Her scientific curiosity led her to ask Harold countless questions about the human body, the processes of conception and birth, and the environmental factors that influence these processes. On Darara, reproduction was a carefully controlled and monitored procedure, devoid of personal choice or variability. Each Dararan was paired with another according to a strict set of criteria, and the resulting offspring were brought into the world through a ritual that was more mechanical than emotional. But here on Earth, Mira found something entirely different, a world where reproduction was as much a matter of personal choice and individual experience as it was a biological function. The idea that humans could choose when and how to reproduce, that they could opt out of the process entirely, or that they could pursue it out of love rather than obligation, fascinated her. The night was quiet, the world outside the small cottage wrapped in the soft embrace of darkness. The only light came from the flickering fire in the hearth, its warm glow casting long shadows across the room. The air was thick with a mix of emotions, curiosity, anticipation, and something deeper, something that neither Harold nor Alara could quite put into words. After Mira and Xena had retired to their rooms, Alara remained in the living room, her mind restless despite the late hour. The conversations of the day lingered in her thoughts, particularly the discussions about love, connection, and the way humans approached reproduction. These concepts were so different from anything she had known on Darara, where reproduction was a duty, a necessity dictated by societal rules and cosmic cycles, devoid of the emotional layers that seemed to define it on Earth. Harold, sensing that Alara was not yet ready to sleep, lingered by the window, his silhouette framed by the night sky. He watched as she sat quietly by the fire, her expression thoughtful, her posture betraying a slight tension, as if she were grappling with something within herself. After a few moments of silence, Harold turned from the window and walked over to sit beside her. The fire crackled softly, filling the room with a comforting warmth. He glanced at Alara, noticing the way the firelight danced across her iridescent skin, highlighting the subtle shifts in color that marked her alien origins. Yet, despite the physical differences, there was a familiarity in her presence that drew him in a shared understanding that had grown between them over the past days. Alara, Harold began, his voice gentle. I can see that something is on your mind. You've been quiet since our discussion earlier. Is there something you'd like to talk about? Alara turned to face him, her large, luminous eyes reflecting the firelight. For a moment she hesitated, as if searching for the right words. Harold, she finally said, her voice soft but steady, I have been thinking a great deal about what you have shared with us about love, about connection, and about the way humans experience reproduction. On Darara, we have never known these things in the way you describe them. Our approach is functional, devoid of the personal and emotional depth that you value so highly. Harold nodded, listening intently as she continued. In the time we have spent here. Alara went on, I have come to understand that reproduction on Earth is not just a biological process. It is an expression of something much deeper, of love, of choice, and of a connection that transcends mere physicality. I find myself drawn to this idea, to the possibility of experiencing something so profound and personal. Harold's heart began to beat a little faster as he sensed where the conversation was heading. There was an intensity in Alara's gaze, a quiet determination that made his pulse quicken. He reached out, gently taking her hand in his, feeling the coolness of her skin against his own warmth. Alara, he said softly, I understand. This is something very new for you, something that goes beyond what you've known. And it's not just about understanding it intellectually, it's about feeling it, experiencing it in a way that words can't fully capture. Alara nodded, her grip on his hand tightening slightly. Yes, she whispered. That is what I want. I want to understand this on a deeper level. I want to feel the connection, the intimacy that you have described. But I also want to share this experience with you, Harold. I trust you, and I want to take this journey together. Harold felt a rush of emotions, affection, respect, and a deep sense of connection to this remarkable woman who had come from another world, who had opened herself up to the unknown in search of understanding. He knew that this moment was significant, not just for Alara but for himself as well. It was a crossing of boundaries, a melding of two worlds in a way that neither had anticipated. "Are you sure, Alara?" he asked, his voice tinged with both concern and care. "This is a very personal decision, and I want to make sure that you're comfortable with it, that you truly want this." Alara's eyes softened, and she leaned in closer, her breath warm against his cheek. "Yes, Harold," she replied, her voice filled with quiet certainty. "I am sure. I have never been more sure of anything in my life. I want to experience this with you, to understand what it means to connect with another being on such an intimate level." Harold nodded, his heart swelling with emotion. He lifted his free hand to gently brush a strand of hair away from her face, his fingers lingering against her smooth skin. "Then, we will take this journey together," he said softly. "But we will go slowly, Alara. I want you to feel safe, to feel comfortable every step of the way." Alara smiled, a small but genuine smile that spoke of her trust in him. "I appreciate that, Harold. I do feel safe with you." With those words, a deeper understanding passed between them, an unspoken agreement that this night would be about more than just the physical act of intimacy. It would be about connection, about exploration, and about discovering something new together. Harold leaned in, his lips brushing against hers in a tentative kiss, testing the waters of their newfound connection. Alara responded with a softness that took his breath away, her lips moving gently against his, her touch light and exploratory. The kiss deepened gradually, growing in intensity as they both allowed themselves to be fully present in the moment, to let go of any doubts or fears and simply feel. As they kissed, Harold felt a warmth spreading through him, a sense of rightness that he couldn't fully explain. Alara's hand moved to his chest, resting over his heart, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her fingers. There was a tenderness in her touch, a curiosity that mirrored his own, as if she were discovering something entirely new, yet entirely natural. When they finally pulled back, both were breathing a little harder, their hearts pounding in unison. Harold looked into Alara's eyes, searching for any sign of hesitation or uncertainty, but all he saw was a quiet determination, a desire to continue exploring this new territory together. "Alara," he murmured, his voice low and filled with emotion, "we can take this as far as you want to go. There's no rush, no need to move faster than you're comfortable with." Alara smiled again, a smile that spoke of trust and understanding. "I want to experience everything, Harold. I want to know what it means to truly connect with someone in this way." Harold nodded, his heart swelling with affection for this brave, curious woman who had traveled across the stars to learn about his world, and who now stood on the brink of a new kind of discovery. "Then we will," he said softly, leaning in to kiss her again. This time, the kiss was deeper, more passionate, as they both allowed themselves to be fully present in the moment, to let go of any remaining doubts or fears. Harold's hands moved to Alara's shoulders, gently guiding her closer, while Alara's hands explored the contours of his chest, her touch both curious and tender. As they continued to kiss, the atmosphere in the room shifted, growing more charged with the electricity of anticipation and desire. Harold's hands moved to the hem of Alara's simple, flowing garment, his fingers brushing against the smooth skin of her waist. He paused for a moment, giving her a chance to pull back if she wished, but Alara only leaned in closer, her breath hitching slightly as his hands slid under the fabric. With a gentle but deliberate motion, Harold began to lift the garment over Alara's head, exposing more of her iridescent skin to the warm glow of the firelight. Alara raised her arms, allowing the garment to be removed, her eyes never leaving Harold's as she bared herself to him, both physically and emotionally. Harold took a moment to admire her, the way the firelight played across her skin, the way her body seemed to shimmer with an inner light that was both beautiful and otherworldly. He reached out, his fingers tracing the lines of her shoulders, her arms, her waist, taking in the softness of her skin, the delicate shifts in color that marked her as different, yet so very similar in the most important ways. "You're beautiful," Alara Harold whispered, his voice filled with awe and admiration. Alara blushed slightly, the iridescent hues of her skin deepening in response to his words. "Thank you, Harold," she murmured, her voice soft but steady. "I want to share this with you, to experience what it means to connect with another being in this way." Harold smiled, his heart swelling with affection for her. "And I want to share it with you, Alara. Let's explore this together, step by step." With those words they came together again, their bodies pressing close as they kissed, their hands exploring each other's skin with a mix of curiosity and tenderness. The intensity of the moment grew as they began to undress each other fully, shedding the barriers that had once separated them, both literally and figuratively. The room seemed to fade away as they moved to the nearby bed, the soft sheets cool against their warm skin. They lay together side by side, their breaths mingling, their hearts beating in unison as they continued to explore the depths of their connection. Harold took his time, his hands moving slowly over Alara's body, learning the contours of her form, the way her skin responded to his touches. The night stretched on, and as they moved together, they discovered the beauty of human connection, the way two beings could come together, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. It was a moment of shared vulnerability and trust, a moment that transcended words and concepts, becoming something entirely their own. When they finally lay together, spent in content, Alara rested her head on Harold's chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. In that moment, she felt a deep sense of peace, a feeling of belonging that she had never known on Durara. She had crossed a threshold, not just into the world of human reproduction, but into the world of human connection, where emotions were as real and powerful as any force in the universe. "Thank you, Harold," she whispered, her voice filled with quiet gratitude. "Thank you for sharing this with me." Harold gently stroked her hair, his voice soft and reassuring. "Thank you, Alara. It was an honor to share this experience with you." As they drifted off to sleep, the embers in the hearth glowed softly, a testament to the warmth and connection they had found in each other. Outside, the night was calm and still, the stars shining brightly in the sky, as if bearing witness to the new understanding that had been forged between them. For Alara, the experience had been more than just a physical act. It had been a journey into the heart of what it meant to be human. She had come to Earth to learn, to observe, and to understand, and in doing so, she had discovered something far greater than she had ever anticipated. She had discovered the power of choice, the beauty of connection, and the profound significance of sharing oneself with another. As she slept, her dreams were filled with visions of a new life, not just one of biological creation, but one of emotional and spiritual growth, a life that she would carry with her, no matter where her journey might lead. The sky above the cottage was a deep, velvety blue as dawn approached, the first light of morning barely beginning to touch the horizon. Inside, the air was thick with the quiet anticipation of departure. The once vibrant cottage, filled with the laughter, questions, and discoveries of the three alien women, now felt subdued, the echoes of their recent experiences lingering like a soft, bittersweet melody. Alara, Zena, and Mira stood by the window, gazing out at the mist-covered fields, the delicate tendrils of fog weaving through the trees. The world around them was waking up, yet they felt the pull of their journey's end. It was time to return to Durara, but the emotions coursing through them were complex, far more nuanced than when they had first arrived on Earth. Harold stood nearby, his hands tucked into his pockets, his gaze shifting between the women and the familiar landscape outside. He had known this moment would come, had prepared himself for it, but now that it was here, a deep sense of melancholy settled in his chest. He had grown close to these extraordinary beings, had shared with them not just the knowledge of his world, but pieces of his heart as well. Alara, the leader of the trio, turned to Harold, her expression serene yet tinged with sadness. "Harold, our time here has been transformative. We came to Earth with the intent to learn, to observe, and to understand. But what we have gained is so much more than mere knowledge. We have experienced the depths of human emotion, the complexity of your connections, and the beauty of your choices. For that, we are eternally grateful." Harold offered her a warm, if somewhat strained, smile. "It's been an honor, Alara. You've given me as much as I've given you, perhaps even more. I've seen my world through your eyes, and it's made me appreciate it in ways I never thought possible." Zena, who had been quietly contemplative, stepped forward, her analytical mind still processing the vast array of emotions she had encountered during their stay. On Durara, reproduction is governed by strict rules, and familial bonds are shaped by duty rather than emotion. But here, I have seen how love, companionship, and shared experiences form the foundation of human families. The idea that bonds can be meaningful and fulfilling, even without the imperative to reproduce, has changed my perspective entirely. It has made me question the rigid structures of our own society. Mira, always the most adventurous and curious of the three, spoke with a bright enthusiasm that masked the deeper emotions beneath. The biological aspects of human reproduction fascinated me from the start, but what truly captivated me was the individuality of your choices. Each human's journey is unique, shaped by their desires, circumstances, and connections. The flexibility and personal agency you possess in such an important aspect of life are incredible. It's a freedom we do not have on Durara, and I can only hope that one day our people might come to understand the value of such autonomy. Alara placed a hand on Mira's shoulder, a gesture of shared understanding and support. Mira is right. What we have learned here, what we have experienced, goes beyond the scientific and into the realm of the personal. It is something that has touched us deeply, something that will remain with us always. There was a moment of silence, the weight of their impending departure hanging heavy in the air. The three women exchanged glances, their connection to each other stronger than ever before, forged not just by their shared mission, but by the emotional journey they had undertaken together. Finally, Alara turned to Harold, her gaze softening as she stepped closer to him. "Harold, before we leave, there is one last thing I wish to say." Her voice was tender, filled with the echoes of all they had shared. "You have shown us the true meaning of love, of connection, and of choice. You have given us a gift that we will carry with us to Durara, a gift that may one day change the way our people think about reproduction, about family, and about life itself. We will never forget you." Harold felt a lump form in his throat as he looked into her eyes, those luminous, otherworldly eyes that now held the warmth and depth of human emotion. He reached out, taking her hand in his voice thick with emotion. "And I will never forget you, Alara. You've shown me a new way of seeing the world, of understanding my own humanity. For that, I will always be grateful." The connection between them was palpable, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they had formed, a bond that transcended the boundaries of their worlds. Alara leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to Harold's cheek, a farewell that was both tender and bittersweet. As she stepped back, Xena and Mira also approached, each offering Harold a parting gesture of their own. Xena with a solemn nod of respect, and Mira with a bright, genuine smile that spoke of the joy she had found in her time on Earth. With their farewells said, the three women moved to the center of the room, where a small, intricate device rested on a table. It was a piece of Dararan technology, a transport device that would return them to their home planet in an instant. The device hummed softly as it activated, its surface glowing with a faint, iridescent light. Harold watched as the women gathered around the device, their forms shimmering slightly as the energy field began to envelop them. There was a part of him that wanted to ask them to stay, to continue their journey together on Earth, but he knew that their mission was complete, and that they had a duty to return to Durara. Alara, Xena, and Mira each gave Harold one final look, a silent promise that they would carry the memory of their time on Earth with them always. Then, with a soft hum, the light around them intensified, and in the blink of an eye they were gone, leaving behind only the faintest trace of their presence. The cottage was suddenly quiet, the space they had occupied now empty, but filled with the echoes of their voices, their laughter, and their discoveries. Harold stood alone, the realization of their departure sinking in slowly. He felt a profound sense of loss, but also a deep gratitude for the time they had shared. The experience had changed him, had opened his eyes to new perspectives and possibilities, and for that he knew he was better for having known them. Outside, the sun was beginning to rise, casting a golden light over the fields and illuminating the world with a new day. Harold walked to the window, gazing out at the beauty of the earth, a beauty he now saw with fresh eyes. The world seemed both familiar and new, filled with the promise of what might come next. As the first rays of sunlight touched his face, Harold smiled, a small, quiet smile that held within it the essence of all he had learned, all he had felt, and all he had shared with the three extraordinary women from another world. For Alara, Xena, and Mira, the journey home was swift, the transport device carrying them across the vast reaches of space in an instant. When they arrived on Durara, they found themselves in the familiar surroundings of their world, orderly, pristine, and governed by the strict structures they had always known. But something had changed within them, a change that was subtle yet profound. As they stepped out of the transport chamber and back into the structured halls of their society, they exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. They had returned to Durara, but they were not the same as when they had left. The experiences they had shared with Harold, the knowledge they had gained, and the emotions they had felt had left an indelible mark on their hearts and minds. Alara, as the leader, knew that their mission had been a success, but she also knew that the true impact of their journey was only just beginning. She turned to Xena and Mira, her expression filled with resolve. "We have returned, but our journey is far from over. What we have learned on Earth must be shared with our people. Perhaps in time we can help them see that there is more to life, to reproduction, and to connection than the structures we have always known." Xena nodded, her analytical mind already considering the implications of what they had experienced. "The knowledge we have gained is valuable, not just scientifically, but emotionally. It could lead to a new understanding of our society, one that values choice, autonomy, and emotional connection as much as it values duty and order." Mira smiled, her eyes bright with the excitement of the possibilities that lay ahead. "I agree. We have the opportunity to bring something new to Durara, something that could change the way we think about life, love, and family. It won't be easy, but it's a journey worth taking." Alara smiled, feeling the strength of their shared resolve. Together they would carry the knowledge and insights they had gained on Earth back to their people. They would share the concept of love, of choice, and of the deep, meaningful connections that could be formed not out of obligation, but out of desire and mutual respect. As they left the transport chamber and re-entered their society, they knew that they were carrying a new perspective with them, one that would shape their future and perhaps even the future of Durara itself. The bonds they had formed on Earth, the experiences they had shared, would remain with them always, a reminder of the profound journey they had undertaken. And as they looked up at the sky, the stars twinkling in the vast expanse of the universe, they felt a connection not just to their home planet, but to the world they had left behind, a world that had shown them the true meaning of love, family, and the power of choice. It was a journey that had forever changed them, and one that they would carry with them, no matter where their path might lead. In their hearts, they knew that they would always cherish the time they had spent on Earth, and the bond they had formed with Harold, a bond that would transcend the distance between their worlds, a bond that would remain a part of them, always.